We're going on assignment with the Voice of America.
Hello from Washington. This is On Assignment. I'm Philip Alexio, sitting in for Imran Siddiqui.
And I'm Alex Villarreal. Coming up, his father was Kenyan, but when it comes to Africa, has President Obama done enough? We hear from our Washington correspondent.
Rescuing children from prostitution. Our correspondent in Los Angeles looks at the organization Children of the Night.
It was 50 years ago today, Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play. VOA reflects on the Beatles and the 50th anniversary of their coming to America.
And if it's music time in Africa, it's time for Leo Sarkeesian, the man who started the show.
This is your ticket to ride, so hop on board. We're going on assignment.
U.S. President Barack Obama will host a summit of African leaders in Washington in August, and it could be a sign that his administration is paying more attention to the continent. But many Africans say he has not done enough.
Africans had high hopes for the new U.S. president in 2009, expecting that the son of a Kenyan academic would have a strong policy on Africa. So could this summer summit mark a turning point in focus for Mr. Obama? I talked about that and more with VOA Washington correspondent Kent Klein. So Kent, in looking at President Obama's foreign policy agenda, why is it that we haven't seen him focus much on Africa up to this point?
Well, a lot of that is because of what was going on when he first took office. He had so many crises to deal with. He came in, there was an economic crisis, there was the stock market was tanking, unemployment, we were losing hundreds of thousands of jobs every month. The auto industry was in trouble. And people couldn't get loans, and it was just a big mess. So that demanded his attention immediately. And then also he had two wars going, Iraq and Afghanistan, so he had to deal with those as well. So that really kind of pushed Africa off the agenda. I mean, Africa is important, but these things were urgent and just had to be taken care of. Another reason that has been offered for why he didn't do more with Africa, at least at the outset, is that as the first African-American president, he was trying to avoid being seen as an African-American president. He was trying to be seen more as a president for all the people and not a president who would be working disproportionately for one segment of the population or for one part of the world.
We saw so much excitement within Africa among Africans when he was elected in 2008. How has he measured up to Africans' expectations of him? Well,
he hasn't, and that's to be expected because their expectations were so high. And not only Africans, but many African Americans as well were really, I mean, the excitement was understandable. But the expectations were perhaps that he would really usher in a new era in which the United States was focused a great deal on Africa. And I think maybe to some extent the expectations were almost impossible for him to meet, especially with the crush of other business he had to deal with. But he's been trying to make up for that a bit as his term has gone along. As far as Africa is concerned, George W. Bush was a tough act to follow because he had the $44 billion PEPFAR program to fight HIV/AIDS. And even since his presidency, he and his wife, Laura, have spent a lot of time in Africa working on social issues and humanitarian things. So he's well regarded in Africa, and Mr. Obama had a tough act to measure up to.
This African Leaders Summit that Mr. Obama plans to host here in Washington in August, what are the plans for that?
Well, they haven't really come out with a lot of specifics yet. We don't know which leaders will be invited, how many will be here. It will be just a couple of days, but that's the standard length for a summit. I think just the fact that he's having one shows that he is committed to issues on the continent and that he is interested in Africans and their issues. And I think that's specifically what he's trying to show. I don't know exactly what the agenda will be, although the White House has been saying that they're going to be largely concerned with basically three things: economy, security, and democracy.
Now, finally, Ken, if you can just sum up for us, pretty briefly what it is that the president has accomplished in Africa. You mentioned his trips, but has he accomplished any policy goals already?
Well, he has. In 2009, I mean, I've been talking over and over about how he didn't get much done his first year or so. Well, he really did. There was something called the Feed the Future program, which was I believe about a $3 billion food security program to help improve food security throughout Africa, and that seems to have had good results so far. And then last year, in 2013, there was the Power Africa program, which was instituted, and that's intended to extend electric power to more and more of the continent. That's a little bit like something that Franklin Roosevelt did here in the United States back in the 1930s. He set up the Rural Electrification Administration to extend electric power to farms and small towns across the country, really brought those areas into the 20th century. And I think that the Obama administration is hoping that Power Africa will do the same thing for some of the more remote places in Africa.
And our thanks, of course, to VOA's Kent Klein. The White House says discussion at this Washington Summit of African Leaders will center on the U.S. commitment to Africa's security and its democratic development.
Well, moving on to the troubling issue of child prostitution. Teenagers who run away from home can fall into the hands of pimps or gangs and be sold for sex. But for 35 years, a Los Angeles-based charity called Children of the Night has been helping young girls and boys escape a life on the streets.
And make no mistake, we really are talking about children, as VOA Los Angeles correspondent Mike O'Sullivan told me when we talked.
The kids you meet there are basically they're just like any group of middle school or high school kids. Some of them that I've met are as young as 12, and they're generally up to 18. At 18, they can move on to college. Some of them are great success stories. They graduate from college. They go into fields like social work, teaching. Others, unfortunately, end up back on the streets. But the goal of the organization is to get them off the streets, get them into counseling, get them into a secure place where they can finish their education, get their high school diploma, and move on.
So of the girls that you spoke with, what were some of the reasons that drove them into prostitution?
Well, when you talk to Lois Lee, who's dealt with thousands of these kids over the years, she says the one common denominator is abuse at home. Sometimes from parents or other family members, sometimes from caregivers, often at a very early age. The other thing is a dysfunctional family. I spoke to one girl whose sister was a drug addict and a prostitute, her older sister, and her sister basically sold her into prostitution at the age of 14. Another girl I spoke to who's featured in this story, her mother is a drug addict, and she was placed in a group home. She ran away. A friend of hers, who she said she thought was a friend, basically sold her to a pimp.
She's like, okay, we need to make money somehow because, you know, we don't have jobs and we need a place to live. And she's like, you know, I can steal from people and, you know, you're really pretty. And right then I was like, oh, I know what that means.
Sarah says she had one client and then ran to a nearby shop pleading for help. The police were called and they referred her to the Los Angeles-based charity Children of the Night.
Now, another important part of this is the way that authorities view and treat these girls and sometimes boys, where they're being seen as victims.
You know, there's been a big educational drive, both aimed at the general public and at police agencies across the country.
We don't look at these girls as prostitutes. We rescue these girls and we understand the dynamics of them being victims. So, and that's one of the things that we're trying to provide training to through the rest of the state and, quite frankly, the rest of the country.
The group's founder, Lois Lee, says things have changed since she started this work 35 years ago.
Prostitution's been moved off the streets because of violence on the streets, because of guns, and so a lot of it's gone to internet advertising.
Pimps mostly recruit customers for these girls through online websites, but Backpage.com, which is frequently criticized because it runs ads for adult entertainment services, says it wants to help and has formed an unlikely alliance with a charity.
In this country, you cannot legally advertise for prostitution or engage in prostitution, but there were a lot of code words, and it went on. Now, Craigslist came under so much criticism that it shut down that section of its site, and a lot of that advertising moved to Backpage. Now, Backpage has come under a lot of criticism, and what they have done is put an ad on the site, reaching out to these kids if they're involved, telling them where they can get help. And they have crews of people who basically scrutinize all the ads, looking for indications that anyone advertising on there may be underage. And if they find anyone, they shut down the ad and they turn the contact information over to the National Center for Exploited and Missing Children.
And Mike, as a father of a teenager yourself, why did you want to do this story? What do you hope people take away from it?
You know, they remind me of friends of my son or friends of my niece. So, you talk to these kids, and it's like visiting a high school, and it's a little jarring when you think back to what they've gone through. But really, they're just regular kids who get involved in a very bad situation, and when they're pulled out of that, they can get back to just being teenagers again.
All right, again, that was VOA Los Angeles Bureau Chief Mike O'Sullivan. Now, here in the U.S., the statistics can be quite sobering, showing that 1 in 7 runaways reported to the Center for Missing Children in 2013, that was last year, were likely to become victims of sex trafficking.
Sobering.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take a short break right now, but coming up, a look back at 50 years of the Beatles in America. You're watching On Assignment. "50 years ago this month, on February 9th, 1964, the Beatles made their U.S. television debut on the Ed Sullivan Variety Show in New York. Millions of viewers were watching. Nearly half of all the TV sets in America were tuned in. And following that performance, the Beatles traveled a few hours south to give their first live U.S. performance 3 days later at the Washington Coliseum, just a few blocks from this building. Joining me now to talk about this is Eric Felton, host of VOA's Beyond Category, the music program that he runs. Listen, Eric, what did you and co-producer Jerry Brown want to convey in this special?
Well, it's a remarkable thing. Here we are, 50 years after when the Beatles arrived in the United States, 51 years after they really hit it big starting in England, and you think there's still an incredible demand for Beatles music. Think about in 1964. If you had gone 50 years before that, it would have been the start of World War I. Nobody in 1964 was listening to music from the start of World War I, and yet we're still listening to the Beatles music 50 years after Beatlemania hit the US. And so we tried to ask the question, why is it? Why is it that they came to such prominence so quickly in the US when they arrived, and how is it that their legacy of their music and their cultural impact has remained so strong?
Well, one thing I think you might have touched on in the program was that, the Beatles came at a time, like you said, back in 1964, but that was right after, or sometime after, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and then the Beatles enter America.
It was just a few months after President Kennedy was assassinated, and it was in November of 1963 that President Kennedy was assassinated, and nobody had really heard of the Beatles at that point in the U.S. And then at the end of 1963, the first record was released in the U.S. of the Beatles, and by early 1964, just a couple of months later, they were everywhere. And in large part, I think it is because they offered such a sort of cheerful remedy, if you will, to the sad mood that the country was in.
Well, when you listen to the Beatles' music, there is, at least in my mind, it just doesn't seem like there's any other sound like the Beatles. I mean, you think of other genres, but it's almost, and seems like that they're just had their own genre. It was just the Beatles, that was it, and no other sound seemed to be like them. Does that sound right? I mean, you're a musician and you understand.
It does, although what's interesting is they're bringing in all sorts of influences, everything from rockabilly and R&B. Originally, they sort of start off as an R&B cover band in the late 50s, early 60s. But they bring in everything that was around them, and the way they brought it all together created a new sound that no one else has ever been able to match. And what's particularly amazing is that they evolved so much as musicians, and yet they remained identifiably the Beatles. You hear the music and you recognize it instantly as the Beatles. So they were able to grow as musicians without losing their essential selves.
You know, it's funny, and they're still, at least Paul McCartney is still performing to
and
this
Ringo
day.
Starr.
And Ringo Starr. And so, I mean, what stands out for you being a musician, about the Beatles? I mean, did they influence you growing up as you worked your way into the world of music as well?
When I was in high school, we had what we call a garage band. Some half or two-thirds of the music we were playing that far after the Beatles had made their impact was still Beatles music.
And then when you look at the Beatles, when historians, I guess they still kind of write about them, but I mean, is there sort of a final toll where, what will historians end up saying about the Beatles, you know, maybe years down the road?
Well, you know, there's a whole academic industry of people doing research and writing histories of the Beatles, and the Beatles' histories just keep getting bigger and bigger. There's a recent history of the Beatles that doesn't even get to when they come to the US, and it's 1,000 pages long. And there's many more volumes to come. So I think that both histories of the Beatles themselves and then also musings on their impact on culture, their impact on music, is something that's going to go on for years and years to come because that impact lasts and lingers.
All right, terrific. Terrific show to watch. What's the name of the special again?
The name of the special is The Beatles 50 Years Later.
All right, VOA's Eric Felton, host of Beyond Category. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Philip.
We'll take a short break right now, but coming up, we'll hear from another man who knows a thing or two about music in Africa. You're watching On Assignment.
Leo Sarkeesian has had a one-of-a-kind radio career. Hired for VOA by legendary U.S. broadcaster Edward R. Murrow in the 1960s, Leo traveled and broadcast throughout Africa for decades for us, for VOA, visiting every country on the continent, recording music that most people had never heard. And he kept on working for VOA for a really long time.
Couldn't stop.
Right up, he couldn't. He loved it here, and we loved him right up until 2012 when he retired at 91 years old.
I just don't believe that.
Amazing.
Well, but the weekly radio show Leo started 47 years ago, Music Time in Africa, plays on, and it remains VOA's longest-running English language program. And in honor of that success, a studio here at VOA now bears his name.
Well, we had a chance to visit with Leo and his wife Mary and hear from his VOA successors about his legacy. Take a look.
Leo Sarkeesian is a unique person. He's a one-of-a-kind. There's nobody like Leo. He's really a legend.
Leo Sarkeesian for the Voice of America is history.
Well, in the first place, there are two main instruments played by the Moorish griots.
I was music director for Africa with the Voice of America at our African Program Center in Monrovia, Liberia. And we were broadcasting out of a big trailer. This was before our transmitters were built.
And was that show Music Time in Africa? It was your first?
That was the first show, 1965, May, we went on the air.
While you were working on the program Music Time in Africa, what was it like for you, the interactions that you had with listeners?
Well, I was welcomed everywhere because word gets around fast in Africa. They can even send messages on the drums. These kids writing to us would write letters, and we started answering every letter. And especially my wife, she was very strict about that. She says, you know, when that kid can afford to buy a stamp and write to us, she says, we have to answer those letters.
Leo's visited every African country.
Studio 23 at VOA headquarters in Washington was dedicated in your name, and you were there for the ceremony. What was that like for you?
To be honored in that way, I was really overcome, and right up till now, I still can't get over it that it happened.
Welcome to Music Time in Africa, Cabo.
Oh.
Now, recently, you passed the torch on to our resident ethnomusicologist, Heather Maxwell,
Yes.
at the Voice of America. What was that like for you to pass on your baby, your program to that next generation and see it still continue to live on?
Well, it was a great fortune for us and for the VOA that I was able to find Heather.
I wanted to talk to you also about your artwork. Not only are you this music expert, but you're also a brilliant artist. I know you have something behind you, which is a portrait that you did of the wife of the president of Mali, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so tell us about that experience.
As I traveled from country to country in Africa, I always had my sketchbooks. And the musicians, the musical instruments, I would make sketches of them. And in the villages, the faces of the children, the women. My gosh, Senegal, some of the most beautiful women, the faces that you see.
We also know that you played music at the inauguration of President Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
Correct? Tell us how did that come to be?
While I was here in Washington, I did have a small group of local Armenian musicians. And so when the time for President Reagan's inauguration, somebody from State Department said, you know, we would like to have your orchestra perform at one of the events.
Let's talk about your relationship with your wife. The two of you have been married now almost 65 years. So incredible. What would you say she's done for you, the support that she's given you? How has that contributed to your success in your career?
It's been very, very important. Mary had never left the United States, so when we got married, the first thing we did was just shortly after that, we were on the airplane, and it was a whole different world for her.
Mm.
But she stuck with me.
He's very sweet and loving. I mean, someone that treats you, you know, as a person and really does so much for you that you just can't help loving a person like that.
And I'm glad when you said that, when you met me, you called me a young man. Thank you.
Everybody thinks that it's the best thing that ever happened to Leo is meeting me.
Thank you. You are a young man. Thank you. Hey, baby.
Such a sweet moment there, isn't it? Watching Leo dance with Mary. It was so incredible to see it in person.
It's priceless. But you know, when we went over to do that and to set things up and you got ready to talk to them, you know, I had a chance to roam around and see the artwork that he did, but she is also an artist.
She's such an accomplished artist as well. Yeah, they're a really amazing, super talented couple, and they're still going strong. And what he said actually, which is why it's so perfect that we ended with them dancing, is that he said they started out dancing, they met at a dance, and they're still dancing to this day.
You called me a young man. Thank you.
But before we go, I want to tell our viewers that they should check out our VOA On Assignment Facebook page, where we have new things happening every day.
And you can also watch On Assignment anytime at voanews.com. Come back next week for more of the fascinating backstories from our VOA reporters from around the world.
Oh yes, you definitely want to join us then, and be sure to check out that Facebook page. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.